Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today is part 2 of our ag leader install on our Kinze 3200 and our John Deere 4055. If you missed part 1, go back and check it out. It's where we put the in-command monitor and all of the wiring in the 4055, as well as mounting it and all that good jazz, all the way up to the plug coming up the back of the tractor. Today we're going to work on getting the planter all ready to go. The main thing is getting all these electric clutches installed, as well as all the wiring that goes along with it. We'll have to get the box mounted for the monitor computer and the clutch control module. Alright guys, we just got back from the implement dealer to take a look at their 3200 that's already set up. I think we got the planter all figured out, so we're just going to walk through and kind of show you what came in our kit and how it all goes together. I apologize right now, this is going to be kind of confusing. I'll try to go slow and be methodical so you know everything that comes in the kit and where it's supposed to go. So just to orient you, this is the tongue of the planter. Goes down to the 2 computers. Okay. I don't have room to go this way, so you have to picture the planter running this way at this point. These go to each individual electric clutch to turn on and off the rows. This harness goes to the seed sensors. Okay, so these are the harnesses that we have. We've got this one that's got 3 long tentacles, if you will. It comes up to this piece. Okay, this piece here is just capped off, it's not used. Okay, the brown and green wire here goes to your implement switch. This one has a T on it. Okay, it plugs into the main harness that goes down the tongue of the planter to one of the black and red wires. That's the one with the 3 long tentacles. Okay, the main harness coming off of the clutch control module has the big harness, the red wire. Let me just disconnect this to kind of give you a better idea. So this is what the main harness looks like that run the individual rows. Okay, so it has kind of a T on here. So this red and black is just your power wires. Okay, so one plugs into the control module box and the other one plugs into the harness coming off of the tractor. Alright, so the rest of that harness comes to here. Okay, so this harness here, like 2 feet long, got the 2 big plugs on it. Here it says left and right, so you got to make sure this harness, it has to go on the right side, but it doesn't matter if this particular harness is plugged into this and this one's plugged into this. It doesn't matter, as long as whatever ends up plugged here goes to the left side of the planter and this one here goes to the right side of the planter. All right, that's the clutch harness. Now, for the last plug on the clutch control module, it has this little 1-foot jumper. Okay, plugs into this T. Okay, this round plug comes off the harness coming down the tongue. It wires into that, and then this one, if you read it, it's upside down, but it says ITT Cannon with an arrow pointing here. Look, ITT Cannon. So that's pretty straightforward. Covering the PMM, the MUX B, it's upside down. Okay, that one's just capped off, not used. The MUX A plugs into this extension cord looking one, and it goes to the seed sensor harness. Okay, the one that says Deutsch, I plugged it in here. I don't remember if that one had power or not, but it's the only power wire going to the PMM, so to me it makes sense to plug it in. I will double check that and let you guys know if that is indeed supposed to be plugged in or not. Okay, did I cover that one? Yep, covered that one, covered that one, covered that one. So that's the harness coming out of the PMM. The last wire here is just a ground wire. I'll ground it to that bolt when I mount that inside of the computer control box, which we'll see later. I'm sorry if that was confusing. I think I went through pretty methodical enough to give you guys a good idea as to what we're doing. Now we'll go through and I'll show you where each one of these goes, as well as seed sensors. So for the sake of this, we're going to call it the big wire bundle and the little wire bundle. So this here is the big wire bundle, and it's got a series of these green, black, and white 3-pin connectors all the way down at mesh garbage. Okay, it's got one there, so it'll have one thereabouts at each planter box. Okay, and those just go down, and they go down here and around here, and then go down there. Seed sensor. Each one of them does it. It's all the way down there, goes down to there. Okay. It also plugs in the speed sensors as well. There's one on this side, the same distance from the end. Over on the other side, we'll have the same thing. So it wasn't until we were actually up and running and editing the video that I realized that I never actually talked about this. This is the speed sensor, and it also plugs into that large harness, which is the seed sensor, also known as the seed monitor harness. So that's the big harness. One thing that I do find extremely frustrating is having just random wires. So I'll be going through and I'll be stripping all of these that don't go to anything. I don't like having wires that, oh, that one goes to light. That one's probably important. I don't like having wires here that just go to nothing. If it has a job, we'll leave it. If it doesn't, get rid of it. I'll probably start stripping all the old wires off of the planter so that we can run the new harness starting there all the way down. I don't like just leaving the old stuff, because in 5 years we're going to wonder, what the heck were we doing? What does this go to? Do we still need it? Could this be the problem why my planter's not working? These are all questions that we don't want to have to ask ourselves in the future. Alright, updates. We got the big harness off for all the seed sensors. Went ahead and took the rest of the liquid fertilizer hoses off and check valves. We don't plan on doing liquid fertilizer, as I said earlier, so it's all garbage. I don't want to just have these on here with the hoses just sticking up, doing whatever it wants to do. If it ain't connected, I don't want it on there. Probably save the check valves. That way, in the future, if we decide to try putting liquid fertilizer when we plant, we can save like 69 cents then. So this big harness, it's got the green, black, and white wires going into them, and there are 20 of these connectors, and this is the one that goes to each one of the seed sensors. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna count 10 down. There'll be a gap and then 10 more, right? I'm gonna put that gap right in the middle of the planter, and then spread them all out from there, leaving a big loop on the corners so we don't pinch as we fold and unfold. All right, so we got the harness for all of the seed sensors installed. So now we're going to run the wires for the actual clutches. I'm going to start from the ends and work my way to the middle. That way I have plenty of slack, because as you can see, we don't have the box that mounts the computers yet. We don't have that installed. So to ensure that I have enough slack, I'm going to kind of push all the slack towards the box. All the excess will just get rolled up inside of that box. That's how the dealer did it. I don't like it. I don't know how else to do it other than shortening all 7 of these wires. I could do that. I'm not going to. Down the road I might, but for now, that's how we're going to do it. All right, guys, we got the harness in for all the seed sensors, as well as all the individual electronic clutches. They're all wired and they're all zip tied, looking nice and neat. We just kind of coiled everything up right there for now. We're going to call it a day. Tomorrow we're going to come back, get the box for the 2 computers installed, as well as getting all the wiring and everything done. You already seen how it's supposed to go while it was on the ground. So really all we're going to do is show you kind of like the final product. We're back at it today. Projects for today. We're going to get the box for the computers mounted. Dad's going to work on the up-down switches. I'll just show you how they go together. The up-down switches mount to the upper and lower bolt, and then this just sits and just senses that arm right there, whether it's up or down. Whoa. Hopefully that one still works. So they go on the main beam. the second row in on both sides. We decided that we're going to try to move this box as far forward as we can, just to eliminate the amount of wire loops up inside the box. You know, all these connections and everything are all up inside of that box, so we're going to try to eliminate the amount of wire bundles spinning up in there, so that if we have something hooked up wrong, if a wire comes unpinned or whatever the case is in the future, hopefully it'll be less of a mess up inside there to allow us to figure out what's going on. Alright guys, we got the wiring all buttoned up, nice and neat. By nice and neat I mean except for this. I don't really know how else to put that together to where it looks better, but it does look a lot better than the one that we were looking at the implement dealer. $15,000 for this kit does not get you pre-drilled holes in this thing. Get all these holes in here, but I still end up having to drill 3 holes. You would think that with all those holes in there, they would have had it figured out for this. But I don't know if this is an old plate, because this InCommand 1200 is it's a newer-ish monitor. They used to use an Integra system, so maybe the computer for the Integra fit those holes, but they have not updated this plate potentially for the new computer. I'm guessing that's what the problem is. Wire bundles, all zip tied nice and neat. We still got some cleaning up to do here. We got this here is the 3rd wire from the up-down switches harness. So we're just going to roll that up, tuck it up underneath here, nice and neat out of the way. We got all of the seat sensors already wired, but we just wired all of the row clutches and basically just follow the seat sensor wire all the way down. We do that to each row. They all generally look like this with the wire coming out. I got that zip tied down so it's not in the way of the box at all, which it shouldn't be anyway, and then it just kind of follows, goes in between these springs, up through the hole, out that front bracket, and into the harness. And as you can see, it's not the greatest looking. If we wanted the greatest looking, which we do, but we don't have the time to make it that way, we would actually take and shorten all the wires as needed. Right, so we've got 3 different bolt sizes here that come in that kit. So this bolt here goes to the electric clutches. This bolt here, and they go to the hanger bearing there. It's got the 3 spacers underneath of it with the whiz locks. Then you've got this super long one. Take that fender washer, put it up against the head of the bolt, pull the nut off. There we go. All right. Make sure that fender washer is under the head of the bolt. And all you do is just slip it all over. That easy. Remember, because we flipped the spring, this is going to be flipped as well, so the chain's going to go on in a different sequence than the old. Okay, so hook the spring, put your finger under that spring. Okay, just spread those open like that. The tail of that spring is going to go down in between that round pivot bar and then the row unit. Forgot to put the spacer on there. Slip that in there. All right, now a couple of times there was a gap in here, right, and that spring ended up getting pinched between that fender washer and the bushing. So make sure that that's out of the way and everything is nice and seated. Okay. Pay attention to how many threads. You know, it's approximately ½ an inch or so sticking out on this side. If you're consistently getting that, and then all of a sudden you get one that doesn't have that ½ an inch, this is what I'm talking about. So you kind of generally want to see that much. When that thing's pinched, you know, you're going to lose probably 1/8 of an inch threads, which is pretty easy to see. All right, and then tightening the nut. That's the old nut. Here's the new one. This is really tricky. You tighten it like you would any other nut. Normally I would go and get a torque wrench, but I don't think it's really required in this particular instance. This isn't anything all that critical. So I usually go for German torque, Guten tight. On that bolt. Right, next thing is these two bolts back here. It'll be this bolt and the one right underneath of it. Those bolts are out. Slide this back. Okay. I've been sliding this up. Makes things a lot easier. All right. Washer is against the head of the bolt. Okay. Grab your spacers, all three of them. All right. The radius size, whatever, goes towards the shaft. So in this instance, they're going to go down. If you wanted to do it like this, then they go like that. It ain't rocket science. If it was, I probably couldn't do it. Top, bottom, top bolt, bottom bolt. All right, once those are in, you got to be able to clear. Slide it back into this recess. Slide her down. Right, rotate it around, your bolt holes line up, slide her in place. The nuts they provide have these little teeth in them. Makes it really nice because you really don't have to hold them very tight. So you can just tighten the head of the bolt rather than the nut. Time for the chain. We've been putting all the keepers to the inside of the box. Just makes them easier to access in the future. Take all that apart now. I'll save you time here in a second. All right, so keepers to the inside, up over the drive shaft, about 15 links or so there. Just let her hang. To the riding of the tensioner, make sure you guys can see that. Okay. Just do it like this. Flip that thing all the way over to that pivot shaft. Push down on it. All right. Take your chain, go through the hole, and then up under that lower, that wear dog bone looking thing, right? All right, so that's what you're doing, right? All right, so you can pull all that slack out of there. It's nice to have that already apart. Makes it a little bit easier. And these keepers, you always want to put them on in the direction of travel. So the chain is going to be going that way around that drive shaft. So I'm going to put this going with the opening facing back. Once I'm all said and done, I always do a dummy check, make sure I didn't forget something. So that bolt's tight, and that bolt's tight. All right, now we'll go over and see where Dad's at and see if he's getting ready to start the next one, and we'll go walk through the process with him. And that'll be it for the install of the actual electric clutches themselves. Next thing we'll do is the wiring. It'll take us 10 minutes to get it all ran. Get it all wiped off. This is just to make your scribed lines a little easier, right?
Yeah, a little easier to see. One thing we figured out right off the bat, to hold this in place, use a magnet. This is one of these super duper magnets.
Yeah, preferably an on-off magnet. Makes it a little easier.
And it doesn't hold it super tight, but it's tight enough that you can kind of move it around, position it. And I figured out that where this lands isn't really as important as just the spacing of the holes. So once you mark your first hole, it kind of doesn't need to move. And I've noticed that the bottom hole tends to walk around a little bit. Now I'm using a piece of sharpened tungsten out of my TIG welder.
Yeah,
This is an old trick we used to use when I was a pipe fitter. It always stays sharp, and you can sharpen it down to a needle point and it stays there. So what I'm doing is marking around these little circles, and then I can kind of feel it with the center punch where it gets blind. Another idea we found out right away, anvil.
So this is really, I mean, it's not super thin. It's a lot thicker than the older model Kinze.
It's got a ton of bounce to it.
Yep. So it bounces. So you just hit it against the hammer, and you can just watch that punch lock itself into the steel. And I'm not putting a lot of pressure on the back of it, but you know, because even if I just held it like that, it's still accomplishing what it's trying to do. I just don't like the bounce.
Because it actually bounces me out of the hole.
So I'm going to try to keep just enough to absorb that bounce.
So this is something I had in my toolbox from my John Deere days. I just cut off a punch, sharpened it, and now I got a center punch. Now this isn't the highest quality tool in the box, so I had to sharpen it a couple times.
Yeah.
Sure.
So what was it, about 1.5 inches, 2 inches long?
Yeah, and that gives you a swing. You put a full-size center punch in there, you got no swing.
So we are still on the first drill bit.
They told us that you would have to have a drill bit per row. I said hogwash. You know how to drill. Quality bit, number one. Bits need to cut all the time.
Make sure that you're using some sort of cutting fluid. Got a bit of a
Another trick.
So we got all the holes cut. Now we're going to take a big drill bit and clean up all the burrs created from on the back side of that.
This for lack of anything better, just to
Yeah, they make better options out there. They actually make a tool designed for this. But we got a drill bit kit.
we have it in the machine shop, so we don't
Yeah.
have it here in the farm shop. I don't know if this is right, wrong, or indifferent, but I've been putting the bottom one in first. Here's a trick. Oh, the holes don't line up.
It's the wrong damn hole.
Oh, I mean, that's why. Like that one better? So, tension-wise.
That's not the right amount of tension, guys.
So I've just been getting them kind of tight, thumb tight,
Giving her a couple oogie doogies.
like that. Seems to spin good. You don't want this real tight, I don't think, because I think it'll load the crap out of this bearing. These were relatively loose, and I figure this will loosen up. That little chain's not gonna, should last till it gets rusty and stiff, you know? And then we're gonna wire tie right here.
And don't forget the zip tie, guys, because that chain's moving. And all it takes is that thing to sit there and rub against that chain long enough, and all of a sudden, you don't have the ability to turn your rows off. If you ain't got the ability to turn your rows off, why are you out here putting all this fancy stuff on your planter?
They always will default to plant, so it's not like you skip a bunch, but it kind of defeats the purpose. Okay, what'd that take?
I'm going to say each row probably takes, if it was just one guy doing it, probably 20, 30 minutes. So all of the drive sprockets are all shifted out, those 3 spacers, right? We shifted these out, which shifted the hanger bearing over and the sprocket consequently. Now, this is a stop, and it's supposed to be tied up against these washers here. So I need to loosen this and get it up tight. The problem is that now the top of this bolt, the bottom of this nut ends up hitting the frame. We noticed at the dealer that some of these things had like 600 washers on them. So as you can see, all they were doing was just taking up this gap in order to keep that stop there. We're going to go ahead and take all of this off of the end of the drive shaft.
We're going to take this, make a bushing out of it. I'll cut that down. Machine her down. This is off the old Kinze planter, I think.
Right, so let's go down the planter and make sure that we know exactly how many of these things that we gotta shim out so that they can clear the back side of that housing. Nope, 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 yep, nope, nope, yep, nope, 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 nope. So I just wanted you guys to be aware of that so that when you're getting ready to tackle this project, you don't have to sit here and try to figure out what you're gonna do down the road. That's it for this video. If you like what you saw, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this, Go ahead and subscribe, ring the little bell. That way you know when we're posting new videos.